This story is based on alleged accounts without concrete evidence and may be viewed as science fiction. It is presented for entertainment and discussion purposes only, and we do not endorse or support any claims made. Viewers should conduct their own research and form their own opinions. I have a question about the landing pads. How are they kept hidden? Aren't they located on the surface? If you were to visit the area, you would understand that there are not many obstacles between the eastern slope of the plateau and County Road 357. There are only a few houses, and the area is sparsely populated. The landing pads are usually covered by large industrial canvases and painted to blend in with the surrounding environment as much as possible. Even if planes fly over, they would not notice them. Inside D1, there is a massive warehouse facility. But helicopters usually only land at D2. The massive warehouse in D1 is typically used to store two large flying saucers that do not belong to us. Flying saucers? Yes, two flying saucers that do not belong to us. I will explain more about this later. Let me continue with the original topic for now. Okay, please continue. Although D2 is located remotely, there are still people who appear there. There is a visible dirt road at the entrance, bumpy, but easy to follow to find the entrance of D2. Many local Jicarilla people know about the entrance to the base and some of the secrets inside, but they do not discuss these things due to the control of DSD-3 to prevent ordinary people from getting too close. There is a small shed near the base with many sensors and cameras installed. Usually, 1 to 2 soldiers are stationed inside. The shed has no markings and looks like an ordinary house, and is almost always locked. If you have heard rumors about someone finding the entrance to the area, it is possible that they are true, as the entrance to D2 is not particularly difficult to find. However, the entrance to D1 is almost impossible to discover. Its main entrance is a huge sliding door, similar to the one at the Area 51 base, but with thick rock walls covering the outside, giving it the appearance of a normal mountain range when closed. There is also a small road outside the entrance to D1, which was first built in 1947 for a company called the Lumbar Company. In reality, it was built by U.S. military engineers from the Muroc Army Airfield to construct the Western Test Range facility, and the road was destroyed in 1949, leaving only debris. Lastly, LANL is responsible for all operations at the Western Test Range facility. LANL? LANL stands for Los Alamos National Laboratories. There is a direct line from the Western Test Range facility to Los Alamos. In fact, the official names of D1, D2, and D3 all include the prefix TA, which is often omitted by internal staff, who refer to D1 simply as D1. LANL controls the operation of the entire facility, and some high-ranking officials have direct control over DSD-3, or can execute certain highly privileged operations. These individuals work together with DSD-3 to select personnel suitable for working at the Western Test Range facility. Only DSD-3 pilots and security personnel are allowed in the D2 area. Is it possible for the general public to drive to D2? If your vehicle is particularly suitable for off-roading, it is possible. But it is also very difficult due to the poor terrain conditions in the area. You can walk to D2 from County Road 357 if you know the coordinates. Can you provide me with the coordinates? Technically, I could. But doing so would put both you and me in immediate danger. Most of the information I have shared with you so far violates DSD-3's security protocols. And they could easily use that information to find and eliminate us. I am currently in a relatively safe position, and I don't want to change that. Can you talk about how you ensure your safety? No, I cannot. However, you can think about why I am willing to sit here and talk with you. It's because we have a mutual friend who has worked for certain companies and has gone through certain experiences over the past decade. He and I are part of a circle that we have created to protect people like us, who know secrets and are willing to share them with the public. I can also tell you one thing. After our conversation today, you will not see me again. I already have plans for my next steps. And my family will be leaving with me to live in another place. This is the only thing I can tell you. Sure. Let's talk more about D2. Based on your description, I gather that finding it is not difficult. Yes, many people have seen D2. Every year, there are many such people. And if you search hard enough in the local area, you will eventually find it. But that doesn't really mean anything, as the houses and above-ground buildings are all camouflage. The real D2 is located underground and contains a hydraulic lift system and storage space. Where does the energy for this base come from? I read online that the Western Test Range facility gets its electricity from nearby Navajo and El Vado dams. Is that true? No, that is fiction. I have seen this claim online as well. I have been following stories about the Western Test Range facility. But the people who make up these stories are completely making things up. This also allows me to quickly discern whether or not the authors of these stories have actually been inside the Western Test Range facility. The energy used by both D1 and D2 comes from a 200 kilowatt sealed micronuclear reactor, which is a few meters in diameter and has fuel added every 10 years. This technology was approved by the DOE and designed and manufactured by Lanel, and has been in use for decades. What surprises me is that this technology has only recently entered civilian use. Many other underground bases controlled by Lanel also use this technology, such as the Pine Gap facility in Australia. The Northrop Corporation Pico Rivera Military Factory, the Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center, the Pisgah Astronomical Research Institute, and so on. Colonel, I'm sorry, but what are these places you're talking about? These are deep underground research facilities used for medical, military, scientific, and other purposes. Many countries besides the US have them, such as Australia, Canada, and some European countries. Russia also has them, such as the Yamantau Mountain Military Base, which is even larger than the Cheyenne Mountain facility. Can you talk about the micronuclear reactor technology used in sealed factories? Is there a risk of nuclear leakage? The sealed factory means that they are ready to use once they are produced and have a high degree of safety. These designs have a history of 50 years and are continuously supported by the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Simply put, the probability of a Chernobyl-like accident is low because the reactor is integrated and buried in a concrete shell. They are very small in size, each only a few tens of cubic meters, and can be used for at least 50 years. The fresh water used in the facility does come from the El Vado Dam, but the Navajo Dam has not provided any resources for D1 and D2. I am not sure about D3, but it is possible that the fresh water used in D3 comes from the Navajo Dam, which may also be the origin of the online rumor. Do you have any information about the D3 facility? Before I arrived at the Western Test Range facility, I learned some information about D3 from the documents in my hands. Later, someone told me that there was already a plan for expansion of the Western Test Range facility in the mid-1960s. The gas buggy project was the booster for the expansion, as the location of this project was near the Western Test Range facility. As far as I know, D3 was completed in 1991, although construction began as early as 1978. But the accident in 1979 caused the situation to suddenly become tense, and the project progress was forced to be delayed. I retired in 1983, and the information after that time was not obtained from my personal experience. The gas buggy project was used to rapidly manufacture cavities, and LANL scientists guaranteed that their advanced materials could eliminate radiation contamination. However, all of this was stopped by the events of 1979. In 1980, I personally led a group of D1 engineers to explore the terrain near Leandro Canyon. Since Leandro Canyon is farther from D1 and D2, they first built a reservoir there. However, the underground maglev tunnel connecting D3 and D1 was not completed until much later. I can tell you responsibly that there is a vertical shaft near the D3 reservoir, which was set up as an emergency ventilation duct and is part of the D3 facility. Colonel, you have mentioned the accidental event of 1979 several times. Could you please explain the background and details of the Dulce incident again? Sure. We've gone a bit off track. As I mentioned earlier, I was urgently summoned to the Dulce facility because 48 hours prior, a serious conflict had erupted between the special forces inside the facility and the inhabitants of the lower levels. Our team's job was to conduct mental evaluations of the survivors, and during the interview process, we were also required to provide each person with neurochemicals. While on the plane to Dulce, the Brigadier General informed us of the evaluation process, which was as follows. 1. Initial consultation. 2. Administration of neurochemicals. 3. Observation of changes. 4. Follow-up interview. 5. Generation of report. I quickly realized that the process was incorrect because none of us were medical doctors. We should not have been providing neurochemicals to these individuals without a doctor present. I cautiously asked the Brigadier General, "Isn't it a violation of certain regulations to provide neurochemicals to them without a doctor present? Since our standard operating procedures include this requirement, a doctor is necessary." Stay tuned for the next episode where we will resume our discussion on the Dulce files.